All right, welcome back to Chapter 6. This is still the same section. We're still working on circles. This is Part 2 of Section 6.2. So this is the second portion of the circle section that we want to look at. There's too much to pack into one video, so we're going to break it down into two. Remember, we're still talking about circles. All right, so the second page of your notes is just basically the formula or the equation of circles again. So x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. So remember from the last video that r equals radius, and remember that h comma k equals the center of your circle. So those are the two important features of this equation. So all we're going to do for this video is we're going to go through three examples, all that are different problems that are based on this idea of the circle equation. Okay, so example number 1 says the points 4, 0, I always like to draw a picture of what I'm looking at, and 0, -6 are the endpoints of the diameter of a circle. So remember that if you have a circle, the diameter is the line that goes from one side of the circle to the other, and it has to go through the center. So it's all the way across. So we can get an idea that if I connect these two points, that is the endpoints of the diameter. Okay, so we're going to see what this tells us. Okay, now, in order, so if this point is 4, 0, and this point is 0, -6, we know that this is the endpoints of the diameter. We also know, based on the diameter definition, that this point right here is the center. So how would we find the center of a segment? Well, going back to last chapter, or 2 chapters ago, we need to use the midpoint formula to help us find the midpoint. So what you do first is you add your x's and divide by 2, and you add your y's and you divide by 2. Okay, so our first x is 4, our second x is 0. So 4 plus 0, and then we add our y's. We have a y and a y, so 0 plus -6. So what is our midpoint? 4 plus 0 divided by 2 is 2. 0 plus -6 is -3, or sorry, -6 divided by 2 is -3. So our midpoint is 2, -3. And that is actually the center of our circle. Okay, so the midpoint is also the center. All right, so if I go to my shapes here and I draw a circle off of that center, you can see that it would be what our circle looks like. All right, so now what we already know now is we already know half of our equation. Okay, so what does this give us? We now know our x value is 2, so I'm going to do x minus 2 squared. And we know our y value is -3, so I'm going to do y plus 3 squared. And now basically all we have to figure out is what our radius is. That's how we finish off this equation. Okay, so we need r. All right, now how do you find the radius? So please remember that the radius is the distance from the center to any one of your points on your circle. Okay, so we're going to do the distance formula to find center. So we're going to find the distance, which would be the radius. All right, so here is my skeleton formula. Oops, that is incorrect. Get rid of that. You are actually going to subtract your x's, square them, and you're going to add that to your subtraction of your y's. All right, so we're going to use our center, which was 2, -3, and we're going to use this point right here, which is 4, 0. So the first portion of your distance formula, you subtract your x's. We have 2 and 4. So 2 minus 4 squared, and then we have -3 minus 0. Okay, so let's see what this is equal to. Remember, this is our radius. 2 take away 4 is -2 squared, plus -3 take away 0 is -3 squared. So let's continue on here. So what do we get? R equals, so -2 squared is 4, plus 3 squared, -3 squared is 9, 9 plus 4 is 13. So r equals the square root of 13. Now, this is r, but in our formula it happens to be r squared. So what would x minus 2 squared plus y plus 3 squared equals r squared. So what's root 13 times root 13? So the square root of 13 squared is equal to, finish writing this, square root of 13 times square root of 13 is 13. So that is our final equation. X minus 2 squared plus y plus 3 squared equals 13. All right. Example number 2. It says the center of a circle is at 3, 5. So basically what they've already told you is they've already given you half of your answer, because we want to know the equation. So x blank squared plus y blank squared equals r squared. It's telling us that our center is at 3, 5. So our x value is at 3, so I'm going to do x minus 3. And our y value is at 5, so I'm going to do y minus 5. Now what we have to find is our r squared. Okay, so I'm going to draw this picture here of what it tells us. It says the center is at 3, 5. Center is at 3, 5. So 3 and 5 up. That's a pretty good idea of 3, 5. And 6, 9 is a point that's on our circle. Okay, so I'm going to draw my circle based on that point. I'll start at the center. All right, so there it is. Now, we want to know, the only other thing we need to know is our radius. So remember, the radius is the distance from the center to one of the points on our circle. So once again, we need to find the distance from our center to a point on our circle. So we need to find the distance between 3, 5, and that is an ugly and. Get rid of that and start again. So 3, 5, and 6, 9. And that is going to give us our r. Okay, so let's draw my skeleton formula. And we're inside the parentheses r minus. All right, so we're first going to subtract our x's. So our first x is 3, our second x is 6. So 3 minus 6. And then we're going to do our y's, 5 and 9. So 5 minus 9. So 3 minus 6 is negative 3 squared, plus 5 minus 9 is negative 4 squared. And this should give us our radius of 9 plus 16. So r equals square root of 25, so r equals 5. Okay, now, r is 5, but what does our equation want? It wants r squared. So what would be 5 squared? Remember, our radius is 5. So up here, we need to put 5 squared, which would be 25. Okay, and that would finish our equation of a circle. Okay, so that's example 2. Example 3, last one. It says the center of a circle is at 2, 4. So 2 to the right, 4 up. And it says it's tangent to the x-axis. Let me draw a picture of what that actually means. Draw a good idea. All right, so this is what tangent means. Notice the x-axis. Okay, so here's the x-axis, and here's our circle. Tangent means it goes and it just touches real close. It just touches at one point. So it's touching this circle right at that point right there. So this one is actually the easiest equation out of all of them to figure out. Okay, so we have x, we have y. We already know our center is at 2, 4. So I'm going to do negative 2 for my x, negative 4 for my y, and I'm going to start over. I don't like how sloppy I'm getting. Sorry about my sloppiness tonight. All right, so my x value is 2. So x minus 2 squared plus y minus 4 squared equals. Now we need our r. So remember, this is r squared. Okay, so what's our radius? This one's super easy because we can just count the tick marks. How far is it from 2, 0 to 4? Well, the y went from 0 to 4, so this is 4 units up. So this would be 4 squared, or 16. And where did I get 16 from? The 4 squared. Okay, so let me erase a little bit in here to give you a better idea of what I mean by this. Alright, so our center is here. So how far is this? This is 2, and this would be another 2, so that gives us a radius of 4. So 4 squared is 16. There is my final equation. Okay, so this just gives us another day to look at more circle equations, a little bit of general idea of what we're looking for here. Hopefully this equation is pretty easy for you. I will see you tomorrow to answer any questions that you have. Have a good night. See you tomorrow.